how to create radial burst designs like this, or we want a zoom design in Illustrator 2021 using a combination of repeats. And well, you can't do this in 2020, 2019, 2018, etc. because repeat is not available. So once you've got, just going to show you how to go through this, but you can see it's editable. Theoretically, it's editable. Sometimes I found it doesn't always work in the way that you think it should, but I'm just going to go through the steps and hopefully it will demonstrate. What's best is to use the Navigator, because the Navigator, I'm just going to show you one issue with this. I'm just going to select, obviously very easy, and it can be used with circles, paths, curves, not with symbols or images. Well, not annoyingly, it doesn't work with images. I would love to see it work. However, what you can do, just going to create, for an example in this case, just a very basic circle. And I'm going to add a grid to it. Now it's a line, so it's not a grid in the sense of a traditional grid, but it's a line. So Object menu, Repeat, and Grid. This is the first thing you've got to do. And what you can do, you can move this out. So create as many as you want. Initially, I think it's best to do it. Sometimes I notice it, see, you have to just tweak the spacing because you can move this out, which is fine, but you might find you're chopping off a little bit of the edge. You might not want that. So I would suggest, it does require, now you'll notice this is one of the problems, what I mentioned, is that the controls have disappeared. Well, what you can do, just zoom in a bit, and then when you zoom in enough, it will let you see. And you can see that you've got slightly over the edge because of the stroke. Now, I don't actually want the stroke, so I'm just going to reduce the stroke down a bit. You probably won't, but I say spacing, that's the key thing here. So you can just change the spacing, just move these settings. And again, with this, you can see you can make them go like that, or maybe the other way. So you can just tweak it to get what exactly you want. So you might want two of these items like going downwards, or you might, but if you just want a single thing. Now, hopefully that isn't being chopped there. Doesn't look like it is, but that's something to be aware of. And then you can move that down and also make certain you don't chop that end as well. Notice that occasion just suddenly chops it off, which is not very good. So you have to tweak. However, like I say, you can see here where it's chopped. But by just moving that little control, you can just move it so you get the whole lot. Okay, so now at this point, what I suggest is that you don't want to use those, the symbols. What you want is the Navigator. And the Navigator is your friend in this because, well, you can resize it, of course. But they say, unfortunately, then you find that, again, you might have to manipulate that because you suddenly notice you've lost a bit of the thing. It's a weird feature, but I'm just going to quickly again zoom in. And what you can do, if you zoom in enough, it will show you that thing, and then you can change that. It's very quirky, but you can see you can resize. Not ideal way. Now, if you want to do the radial feature, you can do it like this. You can, of course, rotate. You can have it at any angle you want. So you want this design there and you want it to be rotated. You can use that if you want and then use the radial feature. But personally, I'm just going to use it this way. And this is probably the best. If you want that sort of burst effect, then you can. So I'm just going to zoom out a bit there, and then you can see radial object and go down to repeat and go for radial. And then you've got your design. So you've got this lovely burst out design. And of course, with this control here, you can modify the number of instances. You can see my other videos about how to use the radial as well as the grid as well. I've done videos for the grid and I've done videos for the radial as well. So, and then what you can do, you can increase that. Now you can only increase it up to 100. For some weird reason, there's a limitation of 100. But you can see you can create this lovely radial design. But it's still modifiable, so you can go and change things if you wish. So you've got this design here, and I'm going to zoom in because that's the thing. The zooming in means you can access all the various controls. So you can see there, double click that, and you've got that control has been selected. Now, of course, you can't see the indicator. You have to double click that line, just any of them, any of those lines, just double click. And theoretically, and I have found occasionally it doesn't allow me, but most of the time it will allow you to go and edit that grid object. So what you can then do is you think, well, let's zoom in again. So you can actually see the control. There's the control there. Obviously that one is right at the top. Make it awkward but you can see you can modify there. You can add some more. So you can just move that if you want. And that's done all the way around. Every single of those other objects will be changed. And again, you can obviously go out. Now, what you can also do, of course, is you can go out that way. You can go back to the layer. You always just click up that top corner to come out all the way to the object. And just move that. Now, obviously, it's slightly outside the artboard, but I could, of course, make the artboard bigger. However, what you can also do, of course, you can modify this as well, this core. You can just bring it in, and you can move it around. You can see it, so you can make them zoom from there. So you've got that central there, or you can zoom in very tight to a central burst there. Now, you can also modify the actual design itself. So again, I'm going to just zoom in a bit. Again, the Navigator is super useful in this. Without the Navigator, I don't think you'd be able to use it because you have to control those little sort of control points that makes it very hard if you can't see it. Now, just double click on there and you can see double click on there and you get back down to the original, just the dot. And of course, what you can do, you can modify the dot and you can see, so you can just change it. So you can see different designs. You make obviously a radial there. And of course you can use transformations as well. So object and transform and rotate. So if you can't manually translate because it just won't let you do it for some weird reason. So say 45 and you can see it that. That's the easiest way. So if you can't, sometimes the actual bounding box seems to not respond in a way that I think, oh, why can't I access it? However, now I can, so I can just resize that. And now you can continue to resize. Of course, you look at that and think, well, that doesn't look very elegant because it doesn't. It looks terrible. However, of course, what you can do, you can come out of this. I'm just going to come out this stage and just going to come all the way out front because there's the design. It's not ideal, but you can, of course, modify the grid again. So actually, you just double click to get, there's the grid. So you can see the grid because you've got this line all the way around. You've gone to that grid now. And what you can do, of course, is you can go out and you can also zoom. And I'm selecting this one. This is the key thing. Always remember which one you select. It's not one of the ones below. They will all change in the same way. That's the key thing. They all change in the same way. But you do need just to work on one. And again, you can zoom in. So just going to zoom in a bit. As soon as you zoom in, you eventually see this little thing. And you can go out. So you can just see again, you can modify the size. And also if you go, that's how it does okay, you have to make, there it is again. So you can see the design there. The only problem is, and you can see immediately the problem, is that that one is cut off and you can't change it. So it's a problematic feature of this tool. But of course, what you can do, you can always go down here and you've got the options here. And you can see you can remove it simply by changing the spacing. It's not ideal. I think this is, you'd think that this would be more, there would be an interactive feature to change all that sort of stuff here and there, and it would be easy. But I think a combination of just using it here, using that control there, and just going over here to change the spacing, you can get rid of any sort of bits where it's cut off. I say it's not ideal, but you can do it. And then you come out radial and out again, and you've got your design there. I say it's a bit more sort of trial and error, I have to say. And again, I just move that away. Properties. And you've got your design there, and you can see, just zoom in a bit, or zoom out I should say, and you again got the radial, which you can then of course tweak and change that way. And you can see you can move it around to create all kinds of burst out. Now unfortunately, because there is no It'd be really nice if they just added a feature that combined the two. You know, another sort of control that was like a sort of a ring design that combined the grid and the radial together in a sort of elegant way that would make it easier. But you can, obviously, a little workaround to create these sort of radial designs. Now, of course, as I pointed out, you can go and change that, and you can change it to type. You can edit any of these things. You can add additional objects into it. So again, you can go back here. I'm just going to double click on there, and you've got that design. Now, I'm not going to add anything outside of it. So I'm just going to quickly zoom in. Let's just go back to the single object. Now, there's no point in editing, try and edit anything else. So you need to go just edit on that one now. And it's all relative. Any change is relative to that design you've just selected. So again, if you want, and you can see now that's added to all of them. So if I had a design there, design there, design there, and again, I can change the colour. I can change the colour of all of them actually. So I'm going to go with, say, green for the fill. Oh, just slightly outside of the thing. That's another thing you've got to avoid. Make certain you don't go outside the box. If you go outside the box, you won't see it. Simple as that. So if you try and add something up there, it isn't going to work. You need to add it within the confines of this sort of, which you can't see, unfortunately. But of course, as soon as you apply it, you'll suddenly see you can't add it. So you'll know that you're doing it wrong. And then if you can see, you can add using that, or maybe curvature tool, and you can add another design there. So you can create all kinds of complex shapes. And like I say, you can if you want. And I'm just going to quickly try it. Oh, need that one slightly smaller so it fits into that thing there. Go to text tool, and of course, obviously, the lorem's gone off the edge. So again, this is a problem. So you'll have to resize the lorem so you can see it coming in, and now it's inside that bounding. So then, what you can do, you can rotate that, and you've got your design there. So you can see you can add type. You can come out and you've got your design. Maybe not the most elegant design, but you can see what you've got is this. And of course, it's still editable. Again, with the circle there, you can rotate it. Now, it might be a bit slower because there's a lot of stuff on there. It's got a lot of paths. So you can see it's taking a bit more time to shift and update. But there it is, you can update it. Of course, go back and edit this. Now, what you can also do, you can obviously take that out from the center because you can see them all adding into the center there, but you can see this design. What you can do, you can go to your window and library. So library's there, and just drag the whole thing into a library. As a library item, what you can then do is go into Photoshop and drag it out from Photoshop. In Photoshop, you obviously drag it from the library, put it into Photoshop and just edit it, apply effects to it, use it as a layer, and much, much more. And obviously any other application that uses the object. So you can just bring this maybe into, like, I don't know, Premiere, After Effects, whatever, accepts these sort of options. I haven't done that, so I don't know, but it's quite likely you can just drag that in and just use it in that application as well. But also what you can do, and I'm not going to go this because it's going to be really quite slow if I did, but what you could do, quiet thing, you can go down to Object, I'm going to point this out to you, Object menu, and Radial, and Grid, and Mirror. You can actually add radial of the radial. Though I imagine in this case, it will be very slow, so I'm not going to do it. So it would be quite, if I would have to reduce down so if I went to the number of options here, repeat, because I've got 44. So I've got 44. Let's go with 4. You could go with 4, and then it's probably good. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, the thing will stop. But it should theoretically, and I've done it repeat with repeats, should do it. But I wanted to reduce it down. Otherwise, it would just, I know what will happen. It'll just suddenly stop. So radial, and then you've got radial. There you can see you can do a radial of a radial. And of course, you can manipulate that and rotate that. And you've got the same design, which is still all the way back, still editable and still can be modified. Number of items there, 12. That's my default. could be 8, 7, whatever. So you can create all kinds of different designs with this. So it's radial with grids, with radial, and so on and so on. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to Graphic Extra channel. Always adding new tutorials about Photoshop, Illustrator, obviously 2021, like this, and also Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Rebel, Critter, Clip Studio, Paint, and many, many others. Also, please add some comments if there's anything you didn't understand, would like to go through again. Like I say, there's other tutorials where I've done with the grids, with the radial, so you can see maybe some of the finer detail of this, but I just wanted to show this sort of way of creating this sort of radial burst design. So please add some comments if you didn't understand something or want something else explained. Also, dislike or like, always appreciated. Thank you much.